And this is starting to show the turning of the tide in California and why I'm so confident that we can take back the Senate from the supermajority point. I'm not saying having the majority, but stop the supermajority against us.
Rick, it's a happy day because, I want to sing Ding Dong, the witch is dead, witch, oh witch, the wicked witch, because AB-1333 is dead. I don't know if you have to tell us whether it's going to be a zombie bill and come back again and again, but I mean, it's dead. Can you confirm that? Because I've had a bunch of people text me, email me, say, no, it's not dead, it's still in committee. I thought it was withdrawn, so...
Yeah, so what happened is Rick Zabur, who is the author of the bill, we have pounded him from every which way to Sunday. It has been an incredible alliance. It shows that things are changing in California. And that would be my first thing before we get into the nitty gritty of this. Often we have portions of the Republican Party in California fighting for something, but you don't have all the support of law enforcement or all the support of the 2A community on any given item, Joel, in our space. And this was so egregious that everybody and their mother came together. Everybody came center in the fight and started to say, hey, we've got to get this done. We've got to make sure that everything is going to come together and defeat this. And so the first point I want to make is that happened. And this is starting to show the turning of the tide in California and why I'm so confident that we can take back the Senate from the supermajority point. I'm not saying having the majority, but stop the supermajority against us. The secondary point of this is continually applying pressure. This is a victory. Make no mistake about it. All of us that want to go punch the end zone, do the little Izzy dance or whatever it might be back there and go, yay, we've done it. But this is now the far left exposing where they really want to go to. If you think about all the victories we've had since Bruin, they have learned that trying to legislate your CCW rights away from you, trying to legislate your right to have a firearm away from you is precarious at best for them. They're losing in the courtrooms. Taxpayers now, more than ever, thanks to things happening under Donald Trump and Doge and Elon Musk, are, no matter what side they're on, are starting to watch, where's the government spending money? And they're saying, so wait, what's going on here? And I think within our own community, Joel, there is now a hypersensitivity when people start to realize, and I've written articles on this, that so not only has the state of California been going after you, but your taxpayers' money has went to the federal government, that went to USAID, that went to all these anti-2A groups, who then paid for people to sit in the Capitol and protest and go after your rights and take it. So yes, you've been paying to basically dismantle your own constitutional rights. And so people are ticked off. And that's why, to be very sensitive to your show, but a very popular bumper sticker right now in Sacramento I see all the time is "We the people ... are pissed," because they are. And so as a result, when we get to AB 1333, Zabur has to save face. So what did he do? He said, okay, I'm going to take this bill and I'm going to pull it, but before I pull it, I'm going to amend it. And what's funny but not funny, the funny part of it is his amendments were supposed to make it not what we said it was. They actually reinforced exactly what we said it was. He went and grandstanded and said, oh, those people out there from all these 2A groups and everything, they fear-mongered, misinformed, and misled the public. Wait a second. Are you looking in a mirror, Mr. Zabur, as you say that? Because that's exactly what you were doing with your bill, was fear-mongering, misinforming, misleading people. Because instead of calling it a castle doctrine bill to remove the castle doctrine or to remove your right to defend yourself, he called it a homicide and literally at the beginning said, we're going to make minor technical changes. None of these changes that were proposed were minor. As we all know, he was basically saying that you can't defend yourself in your front yard. If somebody was coming after my dog, my grandchild, my wife, whoever, my job was to put on my Fred Flintstone shoes and run the opposite direction. And I'm not going to do that. So now what we have is an amended bill that sits in there today, but we've talked with the office, we've talked with public safety, which is the committee it had to go to, talked to the chair of that, have talked to all the lawyers and he has already filed the paperwork. It is pulled. It is dead for this session, but it is not dead. This concept is going to come back. This is being pushed by outside groups such as Giffords and Brady in Everytown. They have openly came out and said, yes, they're behind this bill. So this is the new frontier that we're going to be fighting.
Now, this whole thing was about, as you said, it was about essentially removing Californians' rights to defend themselves almost entirely. California, and I'm sure many people would be shocked by this statement, actually has a very strong castle doctrine law that protects you from prosecution if somebody is breaking into your house or forcing their way into your house or some sort of a home invasion thing, and you shoot that person. It's a pretty strong protection. I mean, it can be overcome, obviously, and you can be prosecuted, but you'd have to really screw up. I mean, it's not, and that's one of the things they were going after. My wife and I were talking about it, and I'm thinking, well, so we would have to then retreat out of our own home, out in the backyard, run over, try to hop the fence to go in. I mean, what do you do when somebody's breaking into your house? You're supposed to run away. So you've got small kids like my son and his wife do, and now you're supposed to grab both your daughters and somehow juggle them because they're little and get them out the back door because you have to retreat. This is an absurd law. And then it was one more swipe at concealed carry folks, making their permit, again, more useless because even in a public place, if you didn't sufficiently run away to the point that the government would be happy, you were done for. So once again, we go back to California trying to make crime legal, right, and self-defense illegal. So people were, at the range, in my classrooms, wherever, they were absolutely incensed over this stupid thing. So I'm glad it's dead now. I guess the question I would ask you is, how is it possible? Well, maybe it's just because it's ideologic, but we just passed a proposition overwhelmingly voted for in the state to make crime illegal again because of all the nonsense that Sacramento and our wonderful Governor Gruesome Nuisance had done to allow criminals to walk into buildings in mass and stores in mass and rob them blind and never get prosecuted and all these other things. The people of California rebelled and made crime illegal again, but it seems like the folks in the legislature in Sacramento didn't even notice or just don't care.
Oh, that would be their tone deafness, and they're tone deaf across the board, Joel. It is shocking how tone deaf they are, and they all acted surprised when the public outcry came over this. And I want to make this really clear to the community. Yes, this does everything you just said it does. It attacks our CCW rights, it attacks our castle doctrine, it attacks our right to defend. It also attacks the person, the single mom that doesn't have a firearm, and she goes to bring the candlestick, the broom, the frying pan. Yep, it's against her too. It's against a martial artist who I've talked to several groups across the country, including Taekwondo magazine that's out in New York. They called about this because their people are like, we can't let this happen in California because it will come to New York, and so a lot of people have their hands in fighting this or monitoring it because every aspect of self-defense came into play. And we gave examples. If somebody's trying to burn your house down, you have to basically go, well, I'm running. And it was also the ludicrous point of, and there's 2 points I want to make. One of the ludicrous points that I found just appalling was the person's broken into my house, the person's on my front yard doing whatever damage, whatever it is. I'm supposed to have a conversation with them, Joel, and go, hey, just for the record, so everyone can hear me, I want to run. When is that ever going to work when an assailant's coming after you? Like, you're not having that conversation. That is so impractical. But on the same token, that I want people to realize too is that this bill is going to keep coming back. It will be what you called earlier in this interview, a zombie bill, because they're not going to let it go. They want to disarm the people. They want to make us completely dependent. That is the goal of the left. And we can't let that happen. We have to fight for this with everything that's in us, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Well, I think that's a great point because it seems like all over the country. It's not just California. I look what's going on right now nationally. with just the effort to cut back on fraud and abuse in the budget of the federal government, and there are people fighting to maintain the fraud and abuse. And that to me is stunning. It's a battle. It's just going to be a battle, and it's not going to stop. So when you're in a restrictive state like California, you just can't, as much as I'd like to relax and go, okay, well, whew, that battle's over. It's not. And it's not going to be.
And I think what a lot of people have missed about is in this, the authors of Burr brought up Kyle Rittenhouse, brought up the Kenosha, Wisconsin issue, brought that all to the forefront as the reason for the bill. So I have three responses for everybody to understand. Number one, this is California, it's not Wisconsin. So we've had nothing in this state that would necessitate, this kind of a piece of legislation being brought forward. Secondly, Kyle Rittenhouse was found absolutely innocent. He actually ran from people, which is what the author wants you to do, and still had to fight for his life. But this is the typical game of the left in Sacramento. They're like, oh, we're trying to prevent vigilantism. And people are like, oh, no, that is the look over here because this is what I'm really doing. And so, if this was straight up, hey, we're trying to correct a problem, the bill would have been titled Castle Doctrine, like I said, which is what you put on the top of the bill so people would see it. He didn't. He shoved us in homicide, which is not normally an area I go look up all the definitions of, but I've had to learn to do that because they're so corrupt and underhanded. So I know a lot more about a lot of things that I never wanted to know about because of that. But I think really at the bottom line, everyone has to start reading more carefully. You cannot be the goldfish that listens to a 6-second soundbite and go, I understand. Because those 6-second sound bites going all the way back to 2016, safety for all, that proposition had nothing to do with safety. It had to do with stripping of us of our rights to own firearms, how we get our ammunition, everything. When we look back to what Gavin Newsom did with the Safety for All Act. And the Dems have ran that kind of moniker over and over and over and say, oh, we're just talking about homicides. No, you're talking about removing my right to self-defense. That's what you're talking about. And so we need people to be focused on that.
Well, Gab, if you start looking at Kyle Rittenhouse's thing and the way they were trying to call him a vigilante, he wasn't. Kyle Rittenhouse was asked by some folks to go with a couple of other guys and stand in front of a business to carry a firearm that was legal for him to possess and to carry in that state. To be where he was legal for him to be there. I don't think it was the wisest thing to do, and I would not have chosen to do it. But nevertheless, if I compare it to California, it would be as if a friend of mine called me and said, hey, I've got a store and there's a potentially going to be a violent thing going on, and I've asked the cops to keep an eye on my store, but they can't. Can you and two of your friends come over, and I know you have a concealed carry permit, can you just hang out here at the store in case something happens so I don't get myself killed? And if I agreed to do that, then I would show up with the other guys that had a concealed carry permit, and we'd stand around the store. Well, we'd be doing legally exactly what Kyle Rittenhouse did legally, which was stand around a friend's store carrying a legal firearm legally. So nothing he was doing was vigilantism.
Right.
And then he got chased and he ran from the guy, and the first guy he shot had him cornered and he didn't have any choice. The dude was going to try to kill him. He shot him. And then he was running to go get the police when they chased him down the street, tried to beat him to death with a skateboard, tried to shoot him with a handgun. There's no vigilantism there at all. And to your point earlier, if the desire is to force people to run away, Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing but run away. I mean, right. He ran away and he was chased, and at some point they backed him into a corner or knocked him down or tried to hit him with a blunt instrument or tried to shoot him with a handgun or whatever, and he defended himself. So the whole Kyle Rittenhouse narrative doesn't even fit the castle doctrine or self-defense. right to stand your ground type of narrative in the first place. So, it just didn't make any sense. They just pull it out of thin air because everybody knows who Kyle Rittenhouse is at this point. And they didn't like the fact that Kyle was carrying a rifle and that he defended himself. But that's the end of it. That's all he did. And if you equate it to what would be legal in California, there's no difference really.
Right.
And so that's kind of insane. Have we at least scorched the feet of the legislators where this is concerned? Is it going to be? Are they less likely to put this forward in the same fashion and try this same stupid, dirty trick again, or not?
That's an interesting question. I would tell you I don't trust them not to try it all over again, but I don't think. Here's what I don't think. And if you had Sam Paredes on, my good buddy, he might go, maybe not. Personally, I think we won't see it again this year, and we most likely won't see it in the back half of the session. We have a 2-year session, so I don't think we'll see it in 26 because elections are tight and the Democrats are really, really concerned about. So I don't think they're going to do something this controversial that's going to blow up on them. But I would be absolutely shocked if this did not show up early in 27. I think they're going to make another run at it. I think it'll be just as devious. And
in the meantime, they're doing all kinds of other devious things, just not that. Right? Yeah. It's not like they had one bill, just one. Oh, they're only trying one. No, there's like a dozen. That's crazy.
And I think the game is a little different right now because we have several positive bills that back up 2A and 2A activities that we're moving through the respective houses at this point and see if we can get them into the secondary house, which that alone will be a huge accomplishment this year. But they're realizing that we're fighting back, and they realize we're fighting back with more than just one bill as well. So we're not quite even like 50-50, but right now we're running about 65, 35, which is not a bad place because for years it was 100% them and 0% us pushing.
So I'm going to ask you to talk about one of those bills if you feel free to do it. But before you do, I want to ask you, are we fighting zombies with zombies? I mean, have we gotten that far? Because we jokingly call these zombie bills that they keep bringing back and they rename them or renumber them or whatever. But the same stupid bill we killed last time comes back again and sometimes in almost identical form. And so we jokingly call them zombie bills because while they die, they never die. They're the undead. Are we at this point coming up with our own zombie bills? Or are we fighting zombies with zombies?
Yeah, CRPA has one. It's Assembly Bill 1092. It's from Assemblywoman Castillo in Inland Empire. It was tried back in 2018, 2019 with Assemblyman Fong, who's now Congressman Fong. And yeah, we brought it back up, retooled it, did a couple tweaks, and we're running it again. And that bill would make it so that your 2-year CCW initial and renewal would move to 4 years.
Rick, thank you. I know I'm going to wrap up because we talked about limited time and you got more bills to kill. But thank you very much for you and CRPA and for Sam at Gun Owners of California for killing this thing. Californians were very stressed out about it. Rick is right. The fight never ends, so we got to stay in the fight. Thank you very much for watching the entire interview. I'm very grateful that you did. Have a great week, and if you'd like to check me out on Rumble and X, I would really appreciate it because sometimes YouTube just deletes my videos or shadow bans them or whatever. So look for the links in the description.